Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is lesson number 5 in the series of walking bass lessons, and today we're going to be looking at chromatic approach notes. This is the ideal opportunity to add some colour to our bass lines and start to move away from just playing root notes and fifths. Okay, so chromatic approach notes, what are they? Right, but let's say we want to arrive at a C. We can play a chromatic approach note from below, which is a half step below, to land on the C, or we can approach it from a half step above to land on the C. So the single chromatic approach note is just one semitone away from the target note. Yeah, so within the context of the jazz blues that we're going to be playing through, we always need to be looking ahead, because the chromatic approach that we're going to use, we're going to be looking to land on the root of the chord, and we're going to be looking to land on the fifth of the chord. Right, so if you've not played through any of my previous courses, playing with the root to the fifth, go back and have a look over them. To outline the chords within this F blues, the first 4 bars, we've got an F7 for 1, we've got a B flat 7 for 1, then we've got an F7 for 2. Okay, so in previous lessons we've been playing the root notes, then trying to land on the target note of the fifth. Right, so using chromatic approach notes, we're just going to get a bit more colour into that progression. So if I play a walking bass line through the F to the B flat using chromatic approach notes, to the fifth degree of the chord, it will sound like this. So. Yeah, so it's got a bit more of a jazzy flavour to it already, as opposed to just playing the roots and the fifth. Yeah, so if I break the first 2 bars down, what you need to bear in mind is you need to look at the next bar, so you're always looking ahead, because the last note of the bar is always a chromatic approach note to the root or the target for the next bar. Okay, right, so the first note played over an F7, so we've got an F, then we've got a chromatic approach note to the fifth, so it's a lower chromatic, which is a B, then we've got the C, which is the fifth, then we've got an upper chromatic approach note to the target note on beat 1 in the next bar, which is a B flat 7. Yes, that's what I mean, you're always looking ahead. So if we look at the next bar, so we've got a B flat 7, then we've got a lower chromatic approach note to the fifth of that B flat 7. Then if we look at the next bar, looking ahead, we've got a G flat, which is an upper chromatic approach note to the root of bar 3. I know it sounds a wee bit complicated, but if you look at it, you should be able to get it if you just take your time with it. So I'm going to play the first 4 bars all the way through, and if you look at the sheet music, I've got the notes that I'm playing in there, in terms of, is it a root, is it an upper or a lower chromatic, or a fifth. Okay, so the first 4 bars goes like this. 3, 4. Yeah, and if we break that down, so we've got a root, lower chromatic to the fifth, upper chromatic to the target chord in the next game bar, then we've got a lower chromatic to the fifth, then an upper chromatic to the F7 from the next game bar, then a lower chromatic to the fifth, F7, then an upper chromatic to the root of bar 4, then a 5 octave, then we've got an A, which is a lower chromatic to the B flat in the next game bar. But I hope you're following this, because it can be a wee bit complicated, but just stick with it, because when it sinks in you will, wow, it really is quite easy. Okay, so let's look at the next 4 bars. So we've got a B flat 7 for 2, then we've got an F7 for 2. Okay, so if we didn't have the vocabulary to expand what we're playing, it becomes particularly difficult when you've got 2 bars together. So if you've got 2 bars of B flat together and you can only play roots and fifths, yeah, it gets a wee bit boring. Okay, but using this chromatic approach, we've then got another 4 notes we can choose from: upper or lower to the fifth, upper or lower to the root. So it just gives you more options as you're going. So if we look at the next 4 bars, so it starts in a B flat, which will be the root, then we've got an upper chromatic to the fifth, then a lower chromatic to the next B flat, then a fifth octave, then a lower chromatic E to land on the target of the F7 for the next game bar. Then an upper chromatic back down, fifth, then root, lower chromatic, root. Then we've got a lower chromatic to the next gain bar, which takes us into the G. Yeah, I hope you're following this. If not, just rewind the video back, just take your time and go over it. So the final 4 bars, so we've got a G minor 7, we've got a C7, we've got an F, D, G minor 7, C7, then it goes back to the start. Okay, so I'm going to take you through. So we've got the root, lower chromatic to the fifth, then we've got an upper chromatic to the C7 in the next game bar, octave, fifth, upper chromatic to the F, then upper chromatic to the root of the D7, then an upper chromatic to the root of the G minor 7, lower chromatic to the C7, then lower chromatic E to the F, so they play the whole sequence again. Right, so I'll play that, the last 4 bars on their own. 2, 3, 4. And that takes us nicely back to the start. So I'll play the full thing for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it sounds a bit more like a walking bass line as you've traditionally heard it, and that's only playing roots and fifths and approach notes to these intervals, to the root and the fifth. Once we add thirds and sevenths to it, it's going to get even more interesting. So if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button and you'll get all the latest channel content and lots of free lessons. Yeah, so hopefully you've enjoyed that, hopefully you've got something from it. Don't be too concerned if it's not going in straight away. Just take your time and actually look at the music, try to analyse the music, then you can work it out for yourself. And the tip is always look for the next bar. Okay, so if you just look at the one bar in isolation, it doesn't make sense. So you need to look at the next bar and the subsequent bars that are coming up for it to make sense. Okay guys, enjoy, and I'll see you in the next lesson.